When we think about the resurrection, our minds usually jump straight to the empty tomb. And for a lot of us, that's kind of where the story stops. But what if that's not the end at all? What if that's where the real story, the deeper one, actually begins? It's a story that takes the deepest sorrow imaginable and transforms it into a promise that changes literally everything. So let's dive into how what seemed like a final departure was really the beginning of a constant, unending presence. Okay, so picture this. It all starts at dawn on the third day. Imagine that quiet, that stillness just before the world really wakes up. This is the backdrop for what's about to become the most important moment in history. But for the people actually living it, it didn't start with a big announcement. It started with this profound, aching silence. And right at the heart of that silence, there's just one person's overwhelming grief. We're going to start with Mary Magdalene, because her experience, her emotional state, it really gets to the core of what this moment truly felt like. And listen to her first reaction here. It's not joy, it's not wonder, it's just pure gut-wrenching loss. She gets to the tomb, sees it's empty, and her mind jumps to the only conclusion that makes sense to her. His body has been stolen. It's the final insult, the final desecration. This is so important to understand. Before there's any revelation, there's just raw human sorrow. She's not just sad. She's weeping, uncontrollably, absolutely convinced that the last possible connection to the person she loved has been violently ripped away. And it's from this place of just complete devastation that one of the most confusing and, frankly, puzzling encounters in the Gospels happens. This is where the story takes a turn that nobody could have seen coming. Through all those tears, she sees someone she thinks is just the gardener. But then, he says her name, Mary. And in that single instant, her entire world flips upside down again. The recognition just floods her with relief. Her reaction is so primal, like a little kid who's found their parent after being lost. She wants to do one thing, and one thing only: grab on and never, ever let go. And this is the central mystery, isn't it? At the absolute peak of this emotional reunion, he says something that on the surface sounds almost cruel. Do not cling to me. I mean, why would he do that? Why would he deny her this comfort, this incredibly human need to just hold on to him after believing he was gone forever? Well, he gives her a reason. And it's our first clue that there's a much bigger plan at play. See, his instruction, it's not a rejection, it's a redirection. He's basically telling her, my work here isn't quite done yet. There's one more crucial step, and holding on to me physically right now would get in the way. This wasn't about pushing her away, it was about pulling all of us closer. And this is where we get into the really beautiful theology of it all. Because the resurrection and the event that comes next, the ascension, they aren't two separate stories. No way. They are deeply and fundamentally linked. So to put it simply, the ascension is Jesus returning home. It's the final act of his mission here on earth, where he goes back to the Father. But it's so much more than just him leaving. Think of it like two sides of the very same coin. You can't have one without the other. The resurrection was his total victory over death as a human. It was the proof that the sacrifice worked. But the ascension, that was his return to glory as God. It was the completion of the mission, taking his rightful place. So you see, the point is this: Mary clinging to him in that garden would have been holding him back. For the whole grand divine plan to actually unfold, he had to leave. The job just wasn't finished until he ascended back to the Father. And this, right here, this is the incredible payoff. This is how his physical absence was transformed into a new, more powerful, and totally universal kind of presence. It's like a divine three-step logic. First, he beats death right here on earth. Check. Second, he returns to the Father in heaven. And that act, him going home, is what unlocks the third and final step, the arrival of the Holy Spirit. His own presence, sent to be with all believers, everywhere, for all time. And just listen to the words he tells Mary to go and share. He doesn't just say, I'm going to my Father. He says, to my Father and your Father. Wow. With his ascension, he creates a whole new family. He's bridged the gap, making his Father our Father too. This is really the whole takeaway. As one physical person, Jesus could only be in one place at one time. But by ascending and then sending the Holy Spirit, he could be present with every single one of his followers in every corner of the world, all at the same time. He had to leave so that he could truly arrive for everyone. So what started with Mary's tears over what she thought was a terrible absence ends with the promise of an unbreakable eternal presence. That empty tomb wasn't an ending. It was an invitation into a brand new reality, one where our connection to God is no longer limited by place or time. And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. From Mary weeping in a garden 2,000 years ago to our own lives right now, the story of the resurrection is a promise that we are not left alone. So the question for all of us is, how does that ancient promise of an unending, personal presence actually feel, right here in the middle of our lives today?